Yvette Raposo is a champion of women in sports and has 20 plus years as an entrepreneur. She was a former Ontario boxer. She's a fitness expert and does many wonderful things. And she's here joining me today. Yvette, thanks for talking to us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This is great.
So, obviously, we know we are in a health crisis right now. Everyone's self isolating and quarantine. How are you doing? How is your family doing?
Thank you. Everyone is good. My family is good. Everyone's isolated, including myself. I've been moving my clients to online training, which has been such a gift to be able to keep in contact with them and keep them going physically. So otherwise, I am getting a lot of cleaning done at home, just a lot of reflecting, meditating, and just keeping the faith and staying hopeful and just doing my part, staying home.
What are some tips that you are using or things, advice you can give to others who want to keep that fitness up while they're at home during this time?
Definitely keep the fitness up while you're at home. Interestingly enough, if you follow me, you hear me talk a lot about the accessibility of being able to physically train at home and without equipment. So I teach this, I preach this to my clients and people that I care and love, care about and love. So my message remains the same, even more so than ever. Movement at home. So if you have space that's equivalent to like a yoga mat style space, you don't even need much space, maybe enough space to lie down long enough with your arms above your head. And if you standing, space towards the ceiling. And there's a lot you can do. I'm actually hosting 3 times a week lunchtime classes for a lot of my old students from boxing, friends and family. So I'm helping, because I know even though people know what to do, right now the piece that's missing, and a lot of times, and the reasons why people hire me, because I am a trainer, I am a personal trainer first and foremost. They hire me for the motivation part and the encouragement part, and more that's what people need, especially now, because although they know they can work out from home, it's that nudge, that sense of community that they miss and that they need. I'm personally walking in my neighborhood, so I'm walking around the block. I'm keeping my distance while I'm walking, but podcasts are keeping me, interviews, which is why I love She's for Sports so much.
Thank
I
you.
love the power of interviews. I love the power of storytelling. I really love what you're doing with She's for Sports. And I try to channel that as well because I'm a big believer in stories as well. And the last thing I'm doing to keep healthy is coloring. I found these coloring books that I received as a Christmas gift years ago, and they're going to good use right now. So I'm coloring.
I think that's amazing because I have seen those coloring books, at Indigo and at Shoppers Drug Mart, and you don't kind of think, yeah, that's probably a good activity to pick up now. You've got lots of time and it's very creative. You touched on a very important thing about community. You're still in touch with your clients, obviously, trying to motivate them. Talk to me about what community means to you throughout your career. You've done so much. So, what does community mean to you?
Community means connection. And on so many levels, we receive connection in different ways. People receive connection when they go home and they have their families and that immediate contact that they have. However, I noticed and I feel, even for myself, that people need connection with other like minded people who are maybe interested in similar hobbies or things, and that's what keeps them connected. So, for example, I've taught boxing classes for many years, and part of what kept people coming back was beyond the physical aspects and the physical benefits that people were receiving, but we were developing friendships. My students were going to each other's weddings, there's funerals, there's baby showers, so this sense of community really brings the connection is just unlike anything else that some people can't even get at home.
And as I said, going back to your career, you've done so many awesome things: a trailblazer, personal trainer, and fitness and boxing, and empowering women and empowering your communities. Tell me a little bit more about being Canada's first ring announcer. How did that opportunity come about? How do you hope that we're going to see more young girls, more women, I should say, picking up the baton from you and trying that career out in sports?
Yes, well, I've been involved. I used to compete as a boxer many years ago, and so that was my first taste of boxing. So I was 19 when I started training in boxing. I competed at the amateur level. I did move on. I did look to pursue the professional ranks, but very soon I realized, first of all, there was not a lot of opportunity because the Olympics was not an opportunity for me. They didn't exist for us female boxers at the time. So I was fighting around the years of between 2000 and 2004. And women's Olympics for women's boxing only came into play 2012. Fast forward, once I left boxing as a competitor, I immediately started teaching boxing because I knew that where my niche was. Because fitness was something that I knew that's my niche was fitness, but the message was through boxing because I very quickly realized that the average person, loved hitting the bag. They loved the feeling of being like a boxer, basically training like a boxer. So I very quickly learned that there was something very special here in helping people channel frustration, get out angst, anxiety, help with mental health, release tension, stress, and then of course all the amazing physical benefits of it. So I stayed around in and around the sport of boxing for the next 10, 15 years. And then one day at a gala event that I was invited to just offhandedly, I didn't know anybody there at this gala except for two people there wasn't anybody. So it was a boxing gala, but it was a very corporate event. So not a lot of boxing people were there.
Mm-hmm.
So I met an old associate of mine. His name is Everton, and him and I hadn't seen each other for about 10 years. We started catching up. We actually had dinner together at the gala. And at some point he just stopped and said, "I want you to be my next ring announcer." And I thought, wow. And afterwards I had asked him years later, I said, what did you see in me? Like, what was it about asking me to be a ring announcer when you don't see female ring announcers at all? And knowing Everton as well as I do now, I know he always likes to try different things. And first of all, he said that he could see the passion and he could see that I was well versed in the sport and still obviously very involved mentally, emotionally, physically in the aspects of the sport. And he wanted to try something different. So that's how it began. And we did 9 shows together at the amateur level where I really honed my skills as a ring announcer. And I realized very quickly that there's so much more to this than just calling out someone's name.
Mm-hmm.
And I started I started to dabble with improv classes, public speaking, events. I found myself up on stage. I did a speaker slam event, which is an amazing experience, which was a storytelling event. And I had 6 minutes to tell my story. So all of these things, I took storytelling courses, I took voice lessons, and all of these things just became my next craft that I wanted to improve on. Of course, I wanted to be the best I can be. And being the only professional female ring announcer now in Canada, I'm paving that path. And of course, it's the fighter in me. I want to do it with a knockout. I want to go undefeated. I want to go in. I want to go hard. So
How are you using your platform to inspire young girls in sports? We know young girls in various sports in high school, they're dropping out of sports. Unfortunately, some of them don't see the normalized narrative that, women can continue in sport for recreational or for a career. So how are you encouraging young girls?
well, it's kind of happening organically, naturally. I'm so in it right now that I'm just being very open. I'm being very receptive and open to what's coming at me at this point now. And what I'm noticing is a lot of the feedback that I'm getting, whether it's through messages, social media, person to person, people coming up to me, young girls coming up to me at the fights, I have young girls, and they don't even necessarily have to be young girls. And listen, I didn't know if there was an expiry date on this role as a woman. I wasn't sure what that looked like either. Is this a young person's role? And so I'm also learning and seeing, and I want to create this idea that this is a great role for a mature woman to represent a sport that's very serious and that requires a lot of practice and training and a lot of maturity.
Hmm.
So it is really great when I see these young girls come up and they're like, oh, I want to do what you're doing. And it's like, okay, well, it's not as easy as it looks,
Yeah.
but here you go. Like, I'd love to pass the baton on. And the beauty of the role of a ring announcer is it's very kind of cookie cutter in a way, where you have a specific role of being neutral and being extremely neutral is the word. But, where does my personality come out at all in this? And it's kind of coaching other young girls, if they're younger than me, around what is personality, what is image, because you're under the spotlight,
Hmm.
basically. So what I'm doing is I am having conversations with I'm telling my story.
Yes.
Actually, I think that's the most important thing, is what I'm doing, and it's what people want. And there's a lot of men, there's a lot of guys that have been very interested and curious about what I'm doing and inspired by what I'm doing, especially if they've been in the sport for a long time. They know, they see, they haven't seen a woman in there before. There are other women who've dabbled more in the States, but in Canada, at the professional level, no way. So what I'm doing is I'm putting myself out there. I'm trying my best. I'm really putting myself out there. So you see
Yeah.
what I'm doing on social media. I'm
Yep.
talking about what I'm doing.
And I love all your questions at our events. We have to get to a place where it's normalized that women visibly work in sports. We talk about representation. You just brought up intergenerational, issues of people seeing different generations in sports. It's not just millennials, it's not just 30-year-olds or 50-year-olds, it's everybody. And that's what we're trying to do at She's for Sports, creating that platform where people see diverse faces, where people say, you know what, sports is inclusive. And thank you so much. Before I let you go, is there anything else coming up with you, or are there some, fitness services that you want to share with our She's for Sports community on how to get in touch with you and to stay fit during this time and healthy?
Thank you. Like I said, I'm doing lunchtime classes Monday, Wednesday, Friday through Zoom. So you can reach out to me on social media, Instagram or Facebook at Yvette Raposo. Coming up, unfortunately, a couple of the events I was scheduled for have been postponed, which is totally understandable considering the circumstances. So we are still putting together the very first all-female fight card professional in Ontario, which was supposed to go off April 23rd with a female ring announcer present, which would have been a very unique event. So that will be happening in fall. So just look out for that, because we're very excited to put female boxing on the map right here in Ontario.
Thank you so much, Yvette. That was great.
Thank you so much. Thanks for your time, and I love what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing with She's for Sports.